मुख्यतः पाग सुखिला किसी जगार हाईली लोकालाइज प्लेस रिपोर्ट होबार संभावना रही जमीक सुंदरगढ़ झारसुगुड़ा बरगढ़ कलाहांडी कंधमाल केउंझर और संबलपुर जिले में आदि देखा केउंझर आड़े टे बादल भी देखा किंतु वर्षा हबार संभावना आमर जो नवेम्बर फोरकास्ट दि जाता मंथली आउटलुक दि जाता मंथली आउटलुक में मेंशन करा कि ओडिशा रे मोस्टली मैक्सिमम टेम्परेचर मिनिमम टेम्परेचर माने डे टेम्परेचर नाइट टेम्परेचर नॉर्मल रो एबव नॉर्मल रहिबार संभावना रही एवं जब आम देखा आमर फास्ट हाफ देखा प्रथम 15 दिन विशेष किसी तापमात्रा कम है किंतु एबे आमर टेम्परेचर कमी आउ शीत फिल होची भी कंडीशन एमती ही आगामी 5 दिन जेनराली आम क्लाइमेटोलॉजिकली जब देखा आमर धीरे धीरे शीत आगू आगू डिसेम्बर जनवरी भी पड़ार संभावना रही है बर्तमान कम तापमात्रा रेकर्ड कर फुलबाणी सबुठ कम तापमात्रा रेकर्ड कर 10 डिग्री सेल्सियस फुलबाणी दारिंगबाड़ी भी 10.5 डिग्री सेल्सियस रेकर्ड कर भी अभ्यंतरण ओडिशा रे एमती कंडीशन और शीत फिल कटक भुवनेश्वर ठंडा पड़ा कि कटक भुवनेश्वर जमी रही सेमती रोल्ड आगामी 5 दिन में किसी संभावना
media warnings, and before the cyclone and after the cyclone, I think there was a lot more need of coverage of different impact.
Alert generating agencies like IMD, Invoice, CWC, DGRE and FSI, Forest Service of India, and they are the authorized alert generating agencies, and SDM is basically after verification of the alerts generated by these authorities, they select the medias to disseminate the alerts.
In next couple of years we are going to establish of course we have already pretty well established various observation platforms like cargo floors, like elevator booths, etc., and gliders, robotic gliders, etc. But going forward, we are going to put up a cable-based observation systems in the oceans with various sensors that are capable of enhancing the capability as well as the accuracies of the prediction in terms of the ocean state as well as prediction of the early warning due to tsunamis and other. Like there is some 20 to 30 kilometer variations in there. So to enhance those accuracies.
Good. If that's the case, I think we can break for now. And I'm not trying to summarize the summary that the key points that our panelists made, because
currently the member of NEP Ayog for that project face disasters differently, and now we also have to cater to the third gender. So there are a lot of issues relating to gender and livelihood when we bring them together. And this panel will basically discuss about this and what needs to be done more, specifically when it comes to early warning and early actions.
60% of them are women and children. Why it was happened? Because at the time of tsunami, the women, most of the women, they are doing it with the post-harvest fisheries. All of them are in the fishing harbors. So wherever the fishing harbors there, and the women went there for purchase of the fish, all the women were washed away from this. So this is the main reason for number of deaths. The other thing is that those women who are in the landing centers and the households with the children. So the lesson from Nagapattinam or the 2004 tsunami, what it tell us that when we develop any kind of assessment, including the vulnerability assessment, we have to assess the gender-focused, gender-specific assessment. Especially when you take the fisheries as a fisheries livelihood. Still in India, most of the households, the women are facing issues to access the technology. If we disseminate the information through the mobile, it is difficult for them to access the information. So we have to use the multiple strategies wherever it works, even the public address system.
Give us some insights from Sundarbans.
Thank you for actually asking. People tend to administer Sundarbans as if it is no different. And therefore, thank you for bringing out the specificity of the region that I worked for nearly 3 decades. The challenges are different. The livelihood patterns are also different. There are people who are primary producers, both in the fishery sector and in the agriculture sector. And then there are gatherers. Again, fishery and non-fishery gatherers, right? In the likely to evacuate. He just now pointed out the men folk aren't around. Is the lady likely to evacuate with all the responsibilities that are on her? Is the producer likely to evacuate? Right? So how do we insulate these, and what the government has been doing? Again, as he pointed out, in terms of response based on early warning, we've progressed. The loss of lives all along our coastal areas occurred. We are talking, and it's early action by the responders. But if we want insular production systems in coastal rural areas, there has to be prior action. For example, who are producers in fisheries? It's not the disaster management to work around. It's the agriculture marketing department, it's the fisheries department. For example, we have disaster shelters for people. Prior action. Early action is for those who are responding. Prior action is for those who can make things better. Right? And because it is the Sundarbans and it also happens to be the only wetland with tigers, incidences of human-wildlife conflict in the immediate aftermath of disaster shoots up. For the simple reason, because the other production systems are now disrupted. People are perforce having to depend.
Today, we have a beautiful system of working around village level disaster mitigation plans, which is a wonderful initiative, one state. But if you look at village level disaster mitigation plan, it's all focused around rescue, relief, first aid, etc., etc. How do we really take it to the next level? That is a challenge, and that has to be part of the VDFP. If it is livelihood restoration is part of the VDFP, then there will be early thinking, early start. The second and last proposal is action. In disaster-prone areas, I think what is needed is to minimize risks. Whether you are in the agriculture sector, both farm, non-farm, fishery sector, or informal workers, I think as a matter of strategy, all those of us, including government, civil society, corporate foundations, the intergovernmental organizations, we have to think of how we promote integrated livelihood systems in those areas to minimize the risks, so that the beneficiary is not bogged up with one livelihood option, and if that passes out, there is no other option. I think we should have 5 options. It's working in the tribal areas, it's working in other areas. I think how do you really bring that integrated livelihood system, including integrated farming, that is the call of the hour. Thank you.
Thank you to have sustainable livelihood.
Yeah. So for that, actually, in one line I have to say, so we need a target-specific capacity building initiatives. So it is very, very important. Why? Because already our co-panelists mentioned about the fisheries is very diversified, and diversified peoples are there, diversified livelihoods are there. So if we take fisheries as a single entity, it is difficult to achieve our missions. So we like other focused thing, social targeting. Even for early warning also, we need a target-specific capacity building initiatives. That is one point. Then second thing is that we have to build our the stakeholders. Multi-stakeholder approach is very much essential. So that is second. The third aspect, I would like to emphasize on this point that whenever we talk about the early warning system, we see the early warning system as a kind of separate entity. So it should be integrated with planning and panchayat level planning, and it should be the planning of the fisheries department, planning of reflected on the planning of the forest department, reflected on the planning of the public administration. So all the department work together along with the NGO partners, then only we achieve the very resilient and early warning system in our country.
You mentioned about convergence, right? So things converging. While response is good, it's already saving lives, preparedness has to converge with, otherwise livelihoods is not something that we should be able to address. Thank you.
Great point of view, as well as the NGO point of view, you're working in both the areas now. So how do we come together?
See, bottom line, irrespective of corporates, governments, NGOs, individuals, I think the bottom line is, and just to sum it up in one line when I talk about gender plus livelihood, the aspects of gender consciously needs to be ingrained in disaster management strategies. I think that is the starting point, right? And not just livelihood. The moment you kind of bring gender at the core of your strategy, it should cut across different thematic areas. You talk about livelihood, you talk about water, you talk about health, you talk about any issue, food security for that matter. I think if gender is not at the pivot, you will not be able to reach there, right? There will be some gaps which will emerge when disaster strikes, and then it will be out of your control, right? So I think that is the starting point, from perspective of all entities.
Right. And this does not involve women. This involves a male person. During the Chamoli earthquake, this person was hit by a boulder, and his spine got injured, and he was not able to move around. His wife left him. He did not have any other members. His neighbors took care of him. And when we went to do a gender study, he said, "Who takes care of me? What do I do?" For women there are programs, but for me there is no one. So it is, and during the COVID, there was one transgender, we have a huge community of transgender in Orissa. She asked me this question: "You did not think about the medicines which I have to still take to have my identity. I am going out, prostituting myself for getting that food on my table." So, ladies and gentlemen, I leave these thoughts with you to think through what the panelists have said. Gendered approach to every activity and also to the early warning. And if we want to ensure that the early warning translates into an early action, we need to have this gendered ideas, sensitivities, empathy for all the genders. Thank you so much. Yes, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that are being implemented on the ground. So look forward to